This is Thank You Mama, weekly lessons from mothers all around the world. So hello and welcome to Thank You Mama. My name is Anna Titer. My guest today is Ana Kasparova, and I'm very excited to have another Anna with one N on the show. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Anna. It's a pleasure.
and welcome. Anna is a personal chef. I needed a break here because I have written a private chef and a personal chef, and I just asked Anna, and I find it very interesting. What is the difference between a personal chef and a private chef?
Yeah, so first, Anna, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's such an honor to be here. So thank you. But yeah, so I'm a personal chef. There's quite a difference. So what a private chef is a chef that works with one family. So it's basically the kind of chef that you would assume a private chef to be. They would come in the morning, make you breakfast, make you tea, everyone's running around the house, you have some snacks. Then you do lunch, dinner, and then you go home. Versus what I do as a personal chef, I basically just come there and make dinners or lunches. I come in, I call myself like a food ninja. I come in when everyone's at work, get all my groceries, I cook for you, I clean, and then everything's in your fridge. So I just make the food and then everything is left for you. You set the table. You take the food out and you heat it. So those are the two main chefs. And then so the private chef is your full-time 100% chef. And then your personal chef is kind of like a once a week. I'll make your lunches, dinners for the whole week. And then that's it.
Anna, the first time I heard from a friend of mine whom you're helping, when she said, I have a chef coming once a week, I thought, what is going on here? But then she explained to me that you basically buy the groceries and you come in once a week, and together with her, she has 3 kids and a husband that she has to feed. And she doesn't like to cook, just like I don't. But you help her then to prepare the food for the whole week, and to set up the menu, to figure out what, and prepare everything. As you said, just put everything in the fridge, and then every day she just needs to reheat it. For somebody who doesn't like to cook like me, that sounds just amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. It sounds like such a big privilege to have a chef, but honestly, it's not. Like, I think my job is really there to help families, especially busy working moms. It just brings me so much joy, because you could hire a house cleaner or a gardener, but why not a chef? You work so hard all day, right?
Yeah.
And then you come home, you have kids running around, you didn't even have time to go grocery shop. So that's where I come in to take that load off mamas and help them out.
Anna, I'd like to talk about cultural differences here, because many of my listeners are international and not only American. And I've noticed a big difference in the amount of work women in America are able and willing to delegate. So as you said, I think in Europe, when you tell women, of course you have somebody taking care of your garden, and then maybe you even have a dog walker, and you have somebody who helps with the kids, and then you have a cleaning lady, and now we're talking a private chef. It's interesting, the amount of, I would even say money, but also willingness to delegate these things is very different in Europe and in America. You don't have to be a mega rich person to do this. All the, I'd say, middle class or upper middle class people in America do these things. They have a gardener and somebody to clean their house, and many people have dog walkers. So as you say, why not on top of that get some help with cooking?
Yes. It is different. And, I come from a ethnic background too. I came here when I was 4. So I do see that with my parents, especially more with my dad. You don't ask for help.
Yeah.
You can do it all by yourself. If you're struggling, working 3 jobs, I got this. It's all me, my family. But yeah, it's really nice here actually in the States. They teach you that ask for help. It's like, why are you going to work so much harder when you can just like ask for a little bit of help? And it is different in the area that we do live in, or in our state. We are fortunate to be able to access those different things, you know, like to have a pet walker or a chef or, you know, so we are fortunate in that sense.
Yeah. Anna, you just started this topic. Tell me about your background. Tell me about where you're from.
Yeah. So my nationality, that's important to start with, is Armenian. I say that because then you get 20 million questions after that. So I say I'm Armenian and they're like, oh, great. Were you born there? Are your parents there? Do you speak Armenian? And no, like none of that. So I have this crazy culture and history behind it. So I was actually born in Ukraine. I came to the States when I was 4. And when we came here, we actually came here as refugees, and we came straight to Seattle, a little city right outside Seattle called Bellevue. Lived there my whole life, grew up there. And then when we moved, we ended up moving 5 minutes from the last house. So literally that whole neighborhood has been my home forever. So to backtrack, we came from Ukraine. And then when I say I was born there, everyone's like, oh, like, you know, do you have dual citizenship? Do you speak Ukrainian? No, again, no.
Do we have to tell people that both Armenia and Ukraine used to be USSR?
Yes. So that is very important to note because, yes, so back in the day when it was the Soviet Union, everybody spoke Russian. So, and that is why Russian is my first language. That is the language my parents speak, my grandparents, even though we're Armenian, like we don't speak it. Even our culture is a little bit different. It's just, for me growing up, I guess it was hard to see the difference between being an Armenian and being Russian because, you know, you speak the language, you weren't born in Armenia. It's just very complicated. Mm-hmm. And so going off of that, my parents were born in Azerbaijan, which just adds on to the confusion of where I'm from and who I am.
Okay, so now we have Azerbaijan, we have Armenia, and Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay. And speaking Russian.
And I speak Russian.
Okay.
And so when I just meet strangers on the street and they're like, oh, like you look, you know, you're not from here. What's your nationality? I just say I'm Russian because not a lot of people know about Armenia. They don't know about the history. Then you throw in a big word like Azerbaijan and they're like, what the heck? What? So yeah, it's a very delicate and important topic that I do want to talk about the Azerbaijan and Armenian war and the genocide that we have gone through, which put me into where I am right now and living in the States.
Tell me about it. I tried Googling it. I was informing myself. I didn't know about it. Will you tell me about the war?
Yeah, so this war has been going on for hundreds of years.
May I ask you something that's interesting to me? So Armenia is Christian. Mm-hmm. Azerbaijan is it Muslim?
Yes.
And Ukraine is Orthodox or Christian as well?
You know, I'm not really sure about Ukraine. I want to say maybe Orthodox because that just sounds right. But honestly, I have no idea.
Okay, let's go back to the wars.
So one of the things, the Armenian history is so rich, so cultured. Actually, Armenia was the very first country in the whole world to accept Christianity. And so Armenia is located in around the Middle East. It borders Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan is on the Caspian Sea. So the countries that actually border Azerbaijan are like Georgia, Iran. So it's kind of in that little area. And the other side of Armenia is Turkey. So Armenia is like sandwiched between two Islamic countries. Mm-hmm. And it's the tiny, small little Christian country. And because of that, there's been lots and lots of war, lots of genocides, just ethnic cleansing. So many years, like hundreds of years. Currently, right now, as we speak, there is also a war going on, a territorial war of Azerbaijan claiming parts of Armenia. And it's really horrible. Actually, like I have family right now serving in the war, and it's pretty bad, but this is an ongoing thing. So that's kind of where I come into this. My parents were born in Azerbaijan, Baku, the capital. And so were their parents, and we have, a long history there. And then in the late 80s, the 1980s, it happened again. There was mass ethnic cleansing of all Armenians, and my parents were caught up in that genocide. And they basically had to flee, like in the middle of the night, and escape. And so they escaped to Ukraine, where they had me a year later.
Oh, wow.
Which is insane.
Can you imagine?
I could not. Like, I just had my first baby, and I could not imagine the mental space.
Did they have other children? Were you the first?
So they weren't even actually married at that point. They were engaged.
Okay.
And so my mom, she was all by herself. She was actually an orphan. I'll talk about that later. She was living with my dad's family, and they knew the war was happening. They saw it. They couldn't go outside because if anyone saw you, you could tell you're Armenian. You just have different qualities than, people from Azerbaijan, and they would just kill you on the streets. The things they saw were insane. So they thought they had a little more time. Their whole thing, my grandma, her mother-in-law, was holding them back from escaping earlier was because she wanted to sell their house. And they thought they had more time, but what actually ended up happening is in the middle of the night, people started breaking into their front door. They literally, my mom was in her nightgown. They took what they could. My mom put some boots on. She hid a knife in her boot. And they ran. They just ran outside the back door. So, which is, to think about, it's kind of insane. This whole life you've built, and they could never go back. And that's the weird part, I guess. Also for me, it's well, where are you from? And I say I'm from Ukraine. It's but I don't have any family there. I don't have history there. I'm not from Ukraine. And then they're well, where are your parents from? It's well, we can't go back there. So I don't know.
So Anna, you were born in Ukraine. Did you have brothers and sisters?
So yes. So I was born in Ukraine, came to the States when I was 4. And I have a younger brother who is 8 years younger than me. And he was born in the States. So he is our American. Yeah, and he is great. He is wonderful. He's my best friend.
But let's hear more about Mom.
Yeah.
Her name is Margarita.
Margarita, like the drink, she always says.
And we heard she was born in Baku in Azerbaijan, and she's Armenian. Will you tell me a little more about her?
Yeah, so Margarita, was born, she's the oldest of 2. She has a younger sister who's just a year and a half younger. Both parents were actually teachers. They were educators. So her mom was a primary school teacher, and her father was a mathematician. And so full culture, great childhood. But that ended pretty quickly because before my mom turned 8, she actually lost her mom to cancer. And then before she turned 18, she lost her father. So under the age of 18, my mom was left all alone. Basically no family because most of their family lived in Armenia. And so she was responsible for taking care of her younger sister, who was just a year younger, so wasn't even that big of a... But she was responsible, and, that I think put a little fire under her, and she studied, went to school, worked, and she ended up getting a PhD in education and child development. And this was in Azerbaijan. And I want to say this because this is a big deal because already, getting into a university is hard, but being a woman and being Armenian, being an orphan is just even the odds are just completely against you. But she got in, she got her education.
And taking care of another child, basically, while you're still,
while you're still trying to figure it out.
Did they have a foster family or where did they?
So they didn't, they had really good neighbors and stuff. And then during the summer times, my mom's uncle would fly them over there and they would spend their summers with the uncles and the aunts and the cousins. But,
wow. So at 18, she was basically alone with her little sister.
yeah, yeah, I know. I cannot, you know, it's a lot to imagine. But yeah, and then she met my dad. And they were planning to get married, and then the whole war broke out, and then, you know, the rest is history.
You said she had a secondary degree as well.
So actually, when they moved to Ukraine, you know, they had to start their life over. She decided to go back to school while she was working as a teacher, and she majored in theater. That's her like life passion, her love, her first love. So she was a theater director. She did some acting, and this is already when she had me as a baby. And yeah, so that was how she got her start. I do want to mention my mom is very artistic, very creative, and very, I don't want to say like a big kid, but just like very much so, you know?
But Anna, tell me about America. What happened when they moved to America? How did they figure it out here?
Yeah, 4 years later, the United States opened the doors to all refugees. So we got our papers and we came here, not knowing anything. It was my family, so my dad, my mom, and me, and then my grandma and my dad's family, so another party of four. So we all came here, no money, no nothing, no language. And so what happened was, my parents worked at night. So they got any jobs they could, you know, to support the family. So they actually worked as janitors, working all night. And then in the morning, they would go to college to learn English, to get a career. So actually, my mom, when that happened, she chose graphic design as her new interest. And then my dad did culinary school. And so I kind of was raised by my grandma because my parents were just always working so hard to just stay afloat. So that was our beginning of coming to America.
And then she built a school.
And then then she's like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. So kind of. So, and that's just one of the things of my mom. She's always surprising us. There's always something going on. So after she got her graphic design degree, finished school, life kind of got normal. You know, we got our own place and everything was going good. She got pregnant with my brother, which I love him, but yay. But that kind of put an end to her graphic design degree. And so she kind of went back to being with my brother, stay-at-home mom for a little bit. And then when it was time for her to go to work, we were trying to figure out what to do. And she's like, I'm just going to go back to my basics. I'm going to teach. And in our area, there's a lot of different cultures, but one of the cultures being Russian. And so she became a Russian teacher. And so she started getting students. And she saw a lot of students were coming just for like Russian tutoring or like literature. And she started in our apartment building, in our tiny little apartment building where my brother and I had to be stuffed in our room, like quiet until the lesson's over, like don't make a noise. And she started with like 1 or 2 students, eventually moving into a space, her own school. And then she basically like throughout the years, I would say over like 100 kids have gone through her. So she started really small. When we bought a house, we had the whole downstairs for my mom's schools, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And it was a bilingual after school tutoring center for kids. So it has many different subjects. So it has like chess, art, theater. Theater is her actually main focus. She built herself a theater in her school.
Oh, wow.
Like an actual theater
stage
with the lights. Yeah, like all the red chairs, like all of that.
Oh, wow.
And so she just like made it huge. Basically any Russian person in our area who speaks Russian knows my mom. And it's quite funny because we look alike. We look so much alike. And if I'm like around Bellevue, like walking around and someone's like, oh, hey, are you Margarita's daughter? Just because we look so much alike. One of the reasons she loves it is because she gets to teach children through like a creative art form. And that's her big thing. Like, it's not like all about sit down, read your book. She wants people to love to learn the way she loves to learn. And she does that through creative learning, you know.
So she's still running her school. How old is she now, if I may ask, or is that?
Yeah, so I actually had to ask her that yesterday. Mom, how old are you? So she's 59 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, she's young.
And so she's young. Yeah. And she started the school, I would say about like 17 years now that it's been running. And with COVID hitting everybody, she took this opportunity to downsize completely. So she is now only taking on a few clients or a few students, you know, teaching by herself, no more teachers. And she's loving it. And it's kind of perfect for me because I just had my baby and now she can babysit her. No problem. She has all the time in the world. Yeah. So that's kind of where she's at now.
Anna, let's go into Margarita's lessons or most important things you've learned from her.
So this was really hard to decide and choose, to the point where I even like went up to my mom. I'm like, Mom, would you teach me in life? And so that's kind of an awkward question. Don't ever ask your mom that. Anyways, I thought about it, and I think one of the main lessons that I would say is to be strong, to be a strong woman, and to stay determined. I didn't really realize how different my life was until I grew up, because my parents tried so hard to give me a regular, normal life and to not see all the stuff that they had to do behind the scenes to give me that. So being strong. My mom has, you know, the life that she went through, losing her parents, losing her home twice, you know, from Azerbaijan, and then restarting in Ukraine, and then restarting here. So she never gave up on life. She always kept fighting. She always stayed determined and just kept fighting to make a life. It's really hard, and, you know, staying strong. Sometimes if I have like, you know, hard days, or I'm just like unpleased, or I'm like, oh, this isn't fair. It's like, you got to stay strong. Like your mom stayed strong. Look at the things she's gone through. And, you know, if she could do it, you can do it. Just put your head down and be a strong woman. Yeah, so that's the first lesson, I would say. Another one is stay determined and stay focused. One of the things that always stuck with me when I was growing up, when I was like trying to figure out what to do in life, the things my parents and my mom especially told me, it's like, you can do whatever you want, but you got to do it the best. So if you want to, you know, I don't even know, if you want to be a chef, you can be a chef, but you really have to be the best chef out there, because there's a lot of chefs out there.
And you did, Anna. We forgot to tell about your trip to Korea.
Thank you.
Tell me about that.
So with that, you know, stay focused. I always stayed focused, and I took every opportunity that I could, just like my mom did. So in culinary school, I had the opportunity to go to Korea and study there. And so that was really random, but I'm like, yes, like travel, let's go to Korea. Why not? This was actually when they were, the whole Korean food scene was starting to develop here in the state, or at least in our state in Washington. Because now you can go to any like store and there's like Korean products, but this was just when it was happening. And so I studied there. That was really great. That was fun. And then I came home, and then I used to compete. I used to love doing food competitions, you know. One of the competitions was a Korean fusion competition, which I won first place. And then I was sent back to Korea to compete for nationals. And that was really cool because I was one person representing the USA.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like unbelievable. And there was 11 other countries, and I was able to compete with all these like professional chefs. And I was fresh out of culinary school. And the fun part that they didn't tell us in the competition was that this was going to be a reality show. It was a reality cooking show. Yes. I had no idea. I wish I knew. And so we had cameras following us around all over the city. They had us doing all these like crazy fun activities. So it was quite the experience. So many great memories and so many great connections I made through that. But yeah, and so I came back and I, put my head down and I worked in the city. And then I said, hey, like, I'm over this. Like, what's next? And so I'm like, let me just go to Spain. And so like I decided that like in the beginning of summer, and by the end of the summer, I was moving to Spain. And so I went to go live in Spain. I went to work at a Michelin star restaurant there. I just wanted to like keep learning. And and then I came back here and I was promoted to like a sous chef at this really amazing restaurant that I worked for in Seattle. And I kind of just did that for a little bit until I met my husband. And then I realized that, okay, like I need to start thinking of my long-term goals. And the restaurant industry is just so difficult for someone who wants to
have a
family, especially for a woman. And so my husband actually gave me the opportunity to, well, he wasn't my husband at the time, but he's like, why don't you quit your job and just kind of like explore yourself? So with that, I taught some cooking classes here and there. I did some pop-up restaurant stuff here and there. And then we're like, hey, like, how about a personal chef? Like, that's a thing, right? And then this is actually my second year in business, and it has brought me so much joy. In my first year, I was like, immediately I had a wait list going.
Oh, wow.
And I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I know there was so much need that I didn't know. It makes sense though, it's a service that really can help people. Yeah. And so now with COVID and with my baby, I have the opportunity to choose the families that I want to work with. And then I am, starting a new wait list now for the future when I do go back to work full time.
So now we prove that Mama's lesson of do whatever you want, but be the best at it. You've learned that one, obviously.
Yes, definitely.
What were some other lessons that you'd like to share?
The other lesson is to stay modest, stay humble, and kind of give credit where it's due. I want to touch back to her story of escaping. She escaped in the middle of the night, but the most important thing that I do want to mention that she always, always, always says and gives thanks is the rescuer that saved them. So it was an Azerbaijani soldier that basically rescued my parents. It was my uncle's friend. He came with like a truck and they were in the trunk of this truck, and this man, this Azerbaijani guy, who was supposed to be killing us off, saved their lives. And she always mentions this and just gives thanks and gives gratitude. It's just, you have to give things where it's due. There's like not many good relationships with the two nationalities. But even though the things that they saw, the things that they went through, they were still so grateful. And this guy was risking his life. So she always, in her story, always mentions this part, always give thanks where it's due, be fair. Always, my mom always would teach me like, be humble, be grateful, be appreciative of the things that you have in life, and don't flaunt your successes. You can like share them when people ask you, but definitely don't be rubbing things in people's face. Not that you would. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but
just modest. Just be modest and grateful.
Modest and grateful, and to the point where she has instilled, like, even now to this day when I lay in bed, I'm always like, thank you, pillow. Thank you, blanket. Like, thanks, guys, for keeping me nice and cozy. Yeah.
But, I have the same thing because I'm also, in a way, a war refugee. I have a similar story to your mom. And I have to honestly say very often, and it's funny you mentioned the bed, because very often I lie in bed And I think it's so incredible that there's peace. I'm not in a war, and I'm lying in this beautiful soft bed, and there's heat, and there's water, and there's a roof over my head, and there's food in the fridge. And it really, once you experience things like this, you do become grateful for these simple things in life. I'm very excited she taught you that you've inherited that from her. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of those things that will just change your life forever, and you will forever be grateful. This is definitely something that I hope I can instill in my daughter, because this is so important.
Yeah. Is there anything you wish she taught you?
So also another very difficult question. Yeah, sorry, Mom. So yeah, I thought about it. So the thing that I wish my mom had taught me was to learn how to slow down. With my mom, even now at 59, new grandma, there's always something going on with her. Either it's a new project, either it's a new class she's taking on, whether it's like, changing the colors of the wall. There's just like always something new. It's always exciting. It's always something to better her, or it's volunteer projects. There's just like always something, which people could be like, oh, like, why are you complaining? Or I'm so happy. I am so happy that my mom still finds joy in life, and that she is so creative and artistic and is just like grabbing onto all these different things. But I've never seen her relaxed or just zen, and there's just always something. Like, I feel like if you were to open her head, there's like a million different like neurons probably just like, spiking in like, it's just crazy. And so I took that on after her. And so I'm always, making my lists. I'm always like, okay, so like planning out my days, planning out my weeks, whatever, and just always like, what's next? And one of the times where I finally realized that I actually have a problem, besides every day in life, was when I went to Spain. And I was in Spain, and I just got there. It was like, a really big trip, many layovers. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in bed. Here I am. I made it. Tomorrow is my first day of work. I'm excited, but I'm over it. What's next? And I'm just like, I'm already here, but I didn't even start. I haven't even seen the daylight, but I'm in bed, and I'm like, okay, Spain's over. What's next for me? And, that point made me realize I have this problem. So I try to work of being in the moment, like stopping and looking around and being there. But that is kind of one of the things that I wish she did teach me.
When I ask this question, many women say taking care of themselves, like taking time for themselves as mothers and wives, and just practicing a little self-care and self-love. Do you think that connects to this always being on and always being like, what's next, and something happening? Or
I think that you mentioned that. Absolutely. It makes so much sense because, at a young age, she had to start becoming a real adult, with no support, no backbone. Yeah. So I don't think there was ever time of self-care. And then, with the war, it's like, that's the last thing that you would do. Actually also losing her mom at such a young age, maybe she was never taught that of like,
yep.
You have to self-care. You have to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. It's also that immigrant mentality.
It is, definitely.
It's like, you don't worry about yourself. You just like push until,
you work.
Yep.
Wow, Anna, what an amazing story. What an
Anna,
amazing
thank you so much for letting me share this. This is great.
Thank you for sharing it. I'm very, very glad that I found you and heard this story. Amazing story. Say congratulations to Mama Margarita for being so awesome.
Oh, truly a pleasure. Like I said, thank you for allowing me to have this platform to share her story and our history and the history of being Armenian. It really is a big deal to me. So thank you.
Yeah, and you said you already have a waiting list. I will put your website on my episode notes just in case somebody is here in the neighborhood
please.
and would like to try your amazing dishes and get some help.
Yes, that was great. Oh, I would love to help. Yes.
I'm still dreaming of those shrimp rolls that I once tried.
Oh, those fresh rolls. I know. Well, see, with COVID, if COVID's over, we can, definitely make more of those, have a cooking class.
We'll do that.
Lots of opportunities and options. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ana.
Thank you, Ana, so much.
If you enjoy Thank You Mama and want to help it grow, please take the 2 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send me a mail at info@thankyoumama.net. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Ana Tajder, that's Tajder. This was Thank You Mama. Come back next week, subscribe, and tell your friends.